Hello and welcome back, and that's right, I want to talk about AnyRAID. Finally, a flexible configuration for RAID for open ZFS systems. It's in very early development by Clara Systems, and it has been financially backed by SHR, the guys behind HexOS. And in this video, we're going to talk about what it is, why it's important, why people like it, how it works, and ultimately why you should be excited. Straight out the gate, many users that have been looking at DIY solutions, again, your TrueNAS, your AnyRAID or whatever, are often drawn away by turnkey NAS solutions like Synology and TerraMaster, because although they support ext4 and BTRFS and have their own apps and stuff like that, they like the fact these have got flexible RAID configurations. These are configurations that allow you to mix and match your drives, and up till now it has never been really possible in any way to be able to do that on a ZFS system like TrueNAS. Now, it's still not technically possible right now. It's still in very much early development, but they've gone into a lot more detail over at Clara Systems and OpenZFS, exactly how it's going to be done and how it works. So next up, why would anyone want to do that? For some users who enjoy purity in their storage, the very idea of mixing drives is a cardinal sin. However, if we look at this system here on the table, this is a 5-base system. This is the Arico Cyber Data Vault, by the way. It's got its own software, but it supports third parties. Say you bought this system and you populated it with 3 of those drives. You worked out how much money you had to spend, so you bought yourself 3 4TB drives. Now, a few years down the line, you're running out of space. You've got to add a few more drives, expand the old RAID there. However, when you do that, in traditional ZFS RAIDs, you're not able to mix and match the drives. You have to use the same drives. And if you try to go for larger drives, you're not going to be able to take advantage of the extra space. And that's why people want flexible RAID configurations, because it allows them a few years down the line, when bunts is a little bit more fruitable and the cost of drives have come down, to get bigger drives and want to be able to take advantage of those bigger spaces, particularly when it gets to the Rackmount level or highly scalable and migratable systems like TrueNAS that allow them to upgrade their hardware granularly and keep the same storage pools, allowing them to get bigger and bigger enclosures. A mixed drive configuration actually makes a lot more sense in that setup. Now, how exactly are they saying this is going to be possible? Why now? What has changed? Well, the main change has been in the back end with the VDEV logs. Now, what happens is normally in ZFS is you can set block sizes flexibly. 128 KB is generally the standard there. And it's written with each drive having the layout of all of the blocks kind of identical across all of the drives across the pool there within ZFS. That is a caveman representation, but just hear me out. Basically, that VDEV log there in the background is keeping track of all of the blocks, and it has to be synchronous. It has to be identical across the form. Now, how AnyRAID changes this is with a new mapping layer of that data. What does that mean? Well, on AnyRAID, rather than that adjustable 128 KB, it breaks every single drive down into 64 gigabyte blocks, little units. It effectively takes a carving knife and chops all the drives up into small 64 gigabyte USB keys. Oversimplification. But what that means is, rather than trying to create parity across whole blocks of drive data in this enormous scale like this, what it needs to do now is, with the intelligent backend having all of the records of those 64 gigabyte tiny little cut up blocks, it can create parity significantly more flexibly across the entirety of the drive media there. And that means the capacity of each drive is no longer needing to be so bloody identical. Now, for those that are wondering what's the difference between the AnyRAID mirror and the AnyRAID Z1, the main difference is not unlike a traditional mirror and a traditional RAID Z1, and that is that the way the 64 gigabyte chunks that all of these mixed drives are chunked into and cut up into, in an AnyRAID mirror, they simply take each chunk in twos, and in the case of the AnyRAID Z1, it's creating parity in the same way we've seen in things like RAID 5, where you have a series of disks and one drive creating parity, but they're utilizing the 64 gigabyte chunks. And the spin out of that will come down significantly onto the scale of the drives you choose to use. So if you've got 3 4TB drives and you add a 24TB drive, it's not going to be the same as, say, 8 drives where they are all going to be mixed together. But nonetheless, the potential benefits in the AnyRAID AnyRAID Z1 are definitely going to be larger overall for the more drives you choose to use. Also keep in mind that that mirror isn't limited to just 2 drives. You can actually spin it out into multiple drives beyond 2 there. Ultimately, AnyRAID is a big deal, and although it's by no means just around the corner, this is a huge and exciting development for Open ZFS systems. And also it's worth highlighting that I have reached out to John over at HexOS, and one of the leaders on EshTech, and asked him, is this going to be locked into just HexOS? It isn't. It's going to be completely freely open source, just like the rest of Open ZFS systems there, which is phenomenal news, and it is something that DIY NAS users have been looking for a very long time. Now I'm going to be doing a 6-month update on HexOS very soon, but I wanted to make this video first because, let's be honest, AnyRAID is going to be a big part of that, and I wanted to make the separate video to explain it a little better. But I hope you're excited about this as I am. There'll be a full breakdown article in the description below, and thank you so much for all of the information that was sent to me in advance of this to let me know more about just exactly how this is going to work. But thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.